Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Telescope Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Everyone in this place, if you could do a handstand, I want to see your feet up in the air.
Hello, and welcome to the Telescope Show. We are discovering faith through geek culture. My name is Matthew Seipel Anderson. It is great to be here recording this morning another episode. If you're a longtime listener of the show, you might be thinking, what in the world is going on? Isn't this the Telescope Podcast? Well, yes, it is. But we are in the middle of a bit of a rebrand, which I'm very excited about, kind of broadening the reach. And so the official name is now the Telescope Show, because that makes more sense when you're broadcasting to YouTube and to the podcast platforms and different things like that. So, yeah, and just really looking forward to what's going to be happening in 2021. Hoping to create a lot of great and valuable content that just makes you feel good. I even changed our little tagline to "We are discovering faith through geek culture," because I thought it just fit the mission of the show better. You know, the previous tagline was, we're the Telescope Podcast, where we look at geek culture through the spyglass of faith. And that, to me, as I sat and thought about it and reflected, I thought, that's more like scrutinizing geek culture through eyes of faith. And that's not really my intent with the show, although sometimes there's some critical things that are said, although I try to keep things very positive. But I feel like discovering faith through geek culture just fits the flavor of the show. But anyway, how are you all doing? What's up? I hope you had a great holiday season. Hope your holiday festivities were wonderful. For me, a bunch of my family either had COVID or were sick with random things, and we're in quarantine because of exposure. I had just all kinds of stuff going on with my family. So Christmas was, a little lonely. The song I'll Be Home for Christmas, that was like my theme song, because I just stayed home basically with my family down in Winona and missed seeing everyone up north. But it was nice. I definitely can't complain. Speaking of Christmas, Disney just announced a treasure trove of new projects, and this is kind of old news by now, but I think it's worth mentioning briefly for new projects for the Marvel Universe and Star Wars. So we've got all kinds of stuff kind of coming up. We've got The Black Widow, Falcon and Winter Soldier, The Eternals, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, WandaVision, Doctor Strange 2, Loki, What If, Hawkeye, and Thor, Part 4. So lots of things coming up, and there's probably even something I didn't mention. The Verge has a great story on the Marvel Phase 4 stuff. I'll add that to the show notes, so check that out. Also, along with all the Marvel content, there is a treasure trove of Star Wars content. So we've got Star Wars, The Bad Batch, Star Wars, Andor. It's kind of funny they put Star Wars in the front of all these titles, but we've got Star Wars Andor, we've got Star Wars The Acolyte, Star Wars A Droid Story, Star Wars Lando, Star Wars Rogue Squadron, and then I don't know how to say this guy's name. He's the eccentric director name. I'm just going to take a stab at it. It's Taiki, Taika Waititi. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. That eccentric director with he directed one of the Mandalorian episodes, and he did Thor Ragnarok. And he's got an untitled Star Wars movie that I think we're all looking forward to. You can check out StarWars.com for all the details on shows and movies. Well, anyway, we're a few weeks into January already. Wow. But, over Christmas, I got a box of chocolates, and I was, philosophizing about this box of chocolates. And here's a serious question that I think says a lot about your personality. Do you look at the diagram of what chocolates are what when you select a chocolate? Or do you just grab one based on gut feeling, kind of just like a visceral, like this strange shaped one with bumps and red goo drizzled over the top. It's the one for me. I feel it. So anyway, what are you? Are you a grabber? Or are you? Do you got to look at the diagram and make sure you get just the right one? Let me know in the comments which one you are. I'd love to hear that. Are you a strategic chocolate eater or a random grabber? Well, the Star Wars / Marvel box of chocolates has not arrived yet. And, what are we going to do in the meantime? Well, in the meantime, we have Wonder Woman 1984, which is what we're going to talk about today. And we have it, but we only sort of have it. There's so many movie theaters closed down. People are frustrated because they can't go to see it, right? And I get it. It's like being a kid, waking up on Saturday and discovering that you have to relive Friday. You want Saturday morning cartoons. Instead, you're lacing up your high tops and trudging off to school. It's a drag, right? So, to escape this movie wasteland, Katie and I decided to join the throng of people who are running to HBO Plus to watch Wonder Woman 1984. So, for $15, which was, in my mind, I'm thinking it's cheaper than 2 movie tickets, we got to watch Wonder Woman 1984. So, here's my quick spoiler-free review. I'm going to try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible because I know that this movie is going to be a slow drip. There's probably a lot of you who haven't seen it. It's kind of like on your list, but of course, if it's not convenient to watch it, you've already got your subscriptions, you don't want to shell out more money, I get it. But you're still curious, which is why you're listening. So here we go. Wonder Woman 1984 is light, fun, and bright, if not very original or gritty. Take it for what it is, and you'll enjoy it. There's plenty of great 80s music, big hair, wild 80s fashion. It's a lot of fun. It's a very fun flick. Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Kristen Wiig, I think is how you pronounce her name, and Pedro Pascal all gave very satisfying performances. Some reviewers have complained about the way they brought Chris Pine's character, Stephen Trevor, back to the movie. That's kind of the one thing I keep seeing as I'm looking at reviews and reading things about this movie. And I would agree that that the particular scene where his character is reintroduced, it's a bit cheese flavored, right? Just a flavor of cheese. Or maybe it's like a huge, mouthful of cheese to some people, whatever. But I would argue that, the overall concept of how they did it isn't that out there, especially for the genre. You got to remember, you're watching a superhero movie. You got to just chill out a little bit. All right. The villains in the film, Cheetah and Maxwell Lord, were multi-dimensional characters. And honestly, they had very relatable inner struggles and character flaws. And in fact, I think the villains really give this movie heart. I found myself actually caring about them as much as I did about Wonder Woman and about Stephen Trevor. So, yeah, I just enjoyed it. Wonder Woman 1984, it's a fun, bright entry into the DCU. Watch it. Don't overthink it. The movie's stellar cast, big heart, and zany story make up for its flaws, in my opinion. Some fans might miss the gritty tone from the first film, but those fans need not worry. Wonder Woman will be teamed up with Batman again soon, and they can feast on a buffet of darkness once again. Dun, dun, dun. So that's my review, spoiler-free. It's a lot of fun. Go watch Wonder Woman. Enjoy it for what it is, and you will not regret it. Well, this is the show where we discover faith through geek culture, so let's get into it.
Bring forth the telescope.
In Wonder Woman 1984, part of the film's third act takes place in Washington, D.C. And without giving too much away, the scene in Washington, D.C. in the movie was pure pandemonium. And as I prepared for this episode, it was impossible not to think about the recent invasion of the U.S. Capitol building. In Wonder Woman 1984, the chaos was caused by too many people getting exactly what they wanted. But each granted wish exacted a cost on the person making the wish. And if I say too much more, I'll be solidly in spoiler territory, so I'm not going to go there. But, there's a real-world parallel here. Would we be better people? And would the world be a better place if we got everything we wished for? Obviously, no. Don't believe me? Take a step back, think a little bit about some of the crazy things, some of the dark things, some of the weird things, and some of the just lavishly selfish things that you've wished for, and I have wished for. Come on, let's be honest here, we've all been there. There is a dark side to desire that's just undeniable, right? Right? That's why our brains filter our desires, okay? So I was just kind of reflecting on this and mulling it over in my mind, comparing these two scenes, one in the fantasy world, one in the real world. And it just struck me. It struck me. And I think there's a real world, kind of thing we can learn or lesson we can draw out of it, right? And I'm going to just back up for a minute. Hold that thought in your mind. I'm going to go to a previous episode of the show. In the previous episode, actually the last episode I recorded, and I talked about a beef I have with the Jedi. And I said, the philosophy of the Jedi, it's this philosophy of detachment. And I argue that I don't agree with it. I think that love and attachment and desire can be good. I think they drive people towards self-sacrifice and to do great good and to achieve great things. And I still stand by those statements. However, there is a counterweight to that argument and to those points. And I think that what Wonder Woman does is bring a great balance to that. In Wonder Woman, it's desire, that dark side of desire, that really is the problem in the movie. And so desire that drives us to be productive and hardworking is good, but there's this other side of it. And here's what the Bible says in James chapter 4, 1 through 3. He says this, he says, "What causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You desire, but you do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. And when you ask, you do not receive because you ask with wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures." There it is. The Bible declares that we have desires that battle within us. And Wonder Woman 1984 shows us what those desires might look like if they could take shape in the real world. And come to think of it, with all the craziness of 2020 and 2021, between riots and the insurrection at the Capitol, maybe we don't need a movie to show us what that looks like. It's an interesting thought. I don't want to get political. I don't want to get too deep. I just want to put that out there that, it's this desire inside of us that's the root of a lot of our problems. It's the root of a lot of our conflicts. It's the root of a lot of the evil things in this world, right? A lot of times people want to lay all the bad things of the world at the feet of God and say, how could you allow this to happen? And I think God would flip it around and point to our own hearts, our own desires, the things that drive us to be manipulative, sneaky, devious, bad, whatever you want to call it, whatever label you want to put on it. I think he would turn around and point it at us, and he'd say, how could you allow these things to happen in your world? You're in charge here. You're the ones who have the ability to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, to do good, to make peace, to decide to forgive, to back off the conflict, but you're the ones who choose to persist and to push and to desire things that are not good and not right. So, Lord, help us to relinquish our selfish desires and work hard for you, for one another. Lord, form our character and our minds into something more noble than what they are now. And with that thought, I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that this has, been good, been enjoyable for you, and giving you something to think about. All right, till next time. Love y'all. Take care. Bye-bye.